Hey, welcome to Watchmen Waiting on the Lord. Oh, I forgot these. I wear these. No, I just got those for my model cars, so I can see the parts closer. But welcome to Watchmen Waiting on the Lord. Today in Canada, it's Thanksgiving. And I know it's not a biblical holiday, but it's still a time to give thanks. So anyways, I'm not well in this video again. I'm still going through a kidney stone. My mind is racing 1,000 miles an hour, but I got my oven going here, so it's hard to think, but I'll try to get my point across the best as I can. Today's video is about, this is going to be a long one, I think. Why is evil allowed on the earth if God exists? And I'm also going to talk about what's Israel, but I'm going to talk about something else that people have wrong in Christianity, and it bothers me. And I'm going to read you an article, and it's about people who think they know the characteristics of the Antichrist. The Bible doesn't give his characteristics very much. You know, they say a lot of stuff about the Antichrist. They have no idea what he's really going to be like. He's going to be a peacemaker. He's going to be this and that. I'll read it to you, okay? Don't judge me. Just listen to the article first. Go back in Scripture. Look for yourself. Look up what are the characteristics. You're not going to find many. You're not going to find many. So I'm just going to start off by the attack on Israel. When I look at that, I say to myself, how did such an attack of such scale get through to a nation that has, you know, likely the most advanced warning systems? How could they not notice thousands of fighters? And I remember, I don't know if it was 67 or 73, when they were attacked Golda Meir. And, you know, it was better for them to be attacked first, right? So they could have a justification when it came, you know, they didn't want to just, they needed a justification. And if you look at the Netanyahu government and what's happening with all the, you know, all the protests and stuff like that, does it have to do with that? But I think it was just, you know, they know they're coming to a point where they have to do something. And I'm angry about this, okay? I came to tears yesterday about this, because there are some videos out there. So I'll say this first. They need the world to see it in a certain way, and they didn't. You know, it's not that they planned for the Palestinians to HAMAS to attack. They attacked, right? I'm pretty certain they knew it was coming, and it's a tough subject. I think this is just like, I studied war, self-studied war for 20 years, and I can tell you, I watch world news since I was 15 years old. I've studied war for about 20 years, and ongoing, not as much anymore. But I can't see any way out for them except for striking Iran. Just take the snake's head off. What else are they going to do? They're going to threaten them. They're going to say, if you do this, we're going to send Hezbollah and Iraq and Syria and Egypt. Well, I don't think they have a choice. Are they going to keep putting themselves in a position where they're just going to be bombing Syria over and over and over again, getting attacked on all sides? Or are they going to take the head off the snake? I don't hate anyone, but I do hate, I say this, I hate evil. I hate people. I hate what they did. I saw a video just today of a 5-year-old boy that they're videotaping, and they were pushing him around. like he's a prisoner. And then there was that German woman, thank God. She was like a tattoo artist or something, and then like they like paraded her naked and stuff like that. These people are like Mexican drug cartel. That's what they are, and that's why I say hate for that type of thing. Now I'll tell you, I believe it is God's land. The Balfour Declaration, the United Nations recognized them. They became the state of Israel again. They gave them the land back. I don't know how to look at it properly though, because I don't want to be unfair, right? Because there are innocent people in this, and I don't know the full story. I don't think many people do the full story. Should the Palestinians be in Israel? Is it God's land? Yes, but I don't know how deep it goes. But none of this should happen, and I believe they are always inciting violence against Israel, and that is my final thought on that. I just want to say this. We've approached the end, okay? I've been making videos and talking about this for a while now. I've known this was coming. I don't know when. One thing's going to fall on top of another, on top of another. There's going to be a land war. If there is, Hezbollah is going to attack. Who knows what happens next? If the US comes in, Turkey comes in, Egypt comes in, likely Russia comes in. We're talking Ezekiel 38, 39. Is this Psalm 83 right now? It's all of them, right? It's all of them. There's a lot of prophecy here. My stomach is so bad. For people who don't know about Bible prophecy, okay? Here's the analogy when you're trying to tell someone that this is all happening. All the things, earthquakes, catastrophes, wars, pestilence. Imagine you're a mechanic, right? And you're trying to tell imagine you've been trained as a mechanic for, say, 4 years to 40 years. You know what to look for. You know the danger signs when an engine's going to go bad, right? So So what if you tell someone, you tell them this, look out for this. Your engine light comes on for oil. You hear certain knocking sounds. You hear the brakes gone wrong or something like that. I just give that analogy. They're not the same. They're not the same. But can you understand how someone wouldn't see it if they didn't know about mechanics? How would they know when things are going to go wrong? Pardon me, I'm going to get to this. And so I think there's going to be hell to come. That's what I think. And I say pray for the people on both sides who are innocent. The innocent ones. The evil ones got to go. They got to go. And when I see in the United Kingdom, when I see in Montreal, when I see in Toronto, when I see in the States, I think it's all over Europe, France, all the Muslims are gathering and they're chanting in the streets. Why are we allowing this? Where are the Christians, man? There comes a time we can't just be peaceful. We have to stand up too, and I don't see that. So anyways, just give me a second. There's times where you don't let people do this kind of stuff. You let them protest, sure, but you don't let them walk all over you. Pardon me. Now, I don't hate Muslims, but I don't think it's a peaceful religion, and it never was. It's all a lie. The Quran is taken from the Old Testament and recopied and changed. Sure, there are peaceful Muslims, and I've met many. But what they're doing isn't. Pardon me a sec. My stomach. having a kidney stone right in this video. They last they can last for up to 2 weeks. Before I get into this, I just want to say, so this is, why is evil allowed to exist if allowed on the earth if God exists? Before I get into this, I just want to say that the attack on Israel, in my own belief, was partly due to money given to Iran, or rather released by the Biden administration. So, like, Biden has ruined a lot of stuff in this world. To open up the nuclear deal again, I don't know if that's going to get going. While they're getting the hydrogen bomb behind our backs, yes, I believe they have it now. They've been close to getting it for 20 years now, right? That's what they tell us. And they aren't in the deal now, and that doesn't even matter anyways, because they're all liars in Iran. We all know they're liars who always want to exterminate the Jews. Can you name one good thing Joseph Biden has done that did our world any good? In my view, this is a biblical judgment on the world and to America. I personally believe the United States is evil on the far left, and the far right isn't, or sorry, the right and the far right aren't doing anything to stop it. And they've made trillions of dollars from endless wars. It will come to an end. I'm almost ashamed to be from this side of the world right now. Don't get me wrong, before the Trudeau government, Canadians are good people, okay? Things have changed. This is so here it is. This is the most difficult question to answer in Christianity. Why does God allow evil? First, if you don't understand the Bible properly, you can't understand why evil exists. None of us are targeted by God to suffer. I need you to understand two things, and both are paramount to understanding the reasons why. First, God gave man free will, which should already answer the question. We have free will to go and hurt anyone we want. That's why people get hurt, because they have free will. It's our choice. That part is straightforward. I can go and run up and down the stairs because I was given the choice to. How do people do amazing feats and excel? It's their willpower, which we all retain. Now, understand the origin of evil. You must read Genesis to understand. It doesn't take long to read Genesis to understand what happened in the very beginning. In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were living in paradise, walking with God, and God said to them, you can eat freely of any tree in the garden except for the, I don't know if it said the tree of life, but certainly the tree of knowledge. You shall surely die. How can you call God evil if you haven't even read this true story? Satan came along in the form of a serpent and tempted Eve, the weaker vessel, and told her, God truly didn't say you will die, did he? Let me make it clear. That serpent wasn't anyone but Satan. I've seen counter arguments to that. It's just ridiculous. Even John says that the old serpent is the devil. Pardon me, I gotta eat while I'm doing this. She believed it and was fooled, and she ate the apple. From what I've learned, Adam then chose to eat with her because he didn't want to leave her and be alone. He chose Satan over God, and from that point, Satan, Lucifer, usurped our God-given right and power over this earth. You understand that, right? That's what happened. We chose Satan's side, and Satan got what we were meant to have. Adam and Eve, they willingly ate it, but there was still a trick, and gave Satan what we were meant to have. Despite what you may think, this wasn't God's plan. He didn't plan for humans to suffer. He let it play out. That's why if you follow God in faith, you'll be restored to this original kingdom when you die, or at the very end, if you're one of the lucky ones to see it all unfold, which it looks like we are right now. Let's get one thing straight. God made the earth and controls it to a certain degree. For now, Satan is called the prince of the power of the air. So Satan has certain controls over this earth, but he doesn't fully control it. There's nothing that God doesn't control. Until we die or the end of days, I don't think any of us will truly understand the full reasoning. People are turned off from God mostly because of life experiences in church that didn't teach the Bible at all, if any, or properly, and we're the literal crazy Christians that some people call. This shouldn't happen in a pure biblical way through proper Bible coverage teachings, or you just pick up a Bible yourself, don't listen to anyone else, and start to investigate on your own. Some were raised in a bad home who were abused and beaten and questioned God's presence. I had a bad life too, but I didn't end up questioning him, so why not? Somehow I always felt his presence. It depends on the person. If Satan owns this world for a short time, it's that simple. The Bible says that God doesn't tempt us, but he does test us. Sometimes God and the devil send people into our lives so we learn lessons like people who want to destroy us, like the ubiquitous and cowardly narcissist. Why is there slavery throughout the ages? Again, it could be anything, free will. Like there could be mass murderers everywhere, right? And well, there is, but God allows us to choose, and those choices either bring us closer to him or to hell. There was slavery throughout all history, not just America. My answer to this specific question will continue to be free will. But why would a good God allow, in my stomach, man, that to happen? Didn't Cain murder his brother Abel? It was free will. Killed a good person. Many Christians, when asked this, get it wrong. Where did sin first originate from? Not from the earth, but it was in heaven. Satan sinned first because of his pride, and war broke out in heaven. I'll read a Korah question and answer towards this. Pardon me, I gotta take breaks here. I gotta check the time here. I hope I have time to read that article. I think it'll let me upload any amount of time. Just give me a second here. So I looked this up, and as I read along, I'll tell you if I agree. I believe I do agree with this. So that's a good question. During my youth, this isn't me, okay? When I attended church, I was taught that Satan was thrown out of heaven, and so he tempted Adam and Eve. I later learned the truth from the Bible. I discovered that I'd been taught a lie. Before he made himself into Satan the devil, which means he's an oppressor and resistor of God, Satan was someone else. Ezekiel 28:14. You were in Eden, the garden of God. You were adorned with every precious stone, ruby, topaz, jasper, chrysolite, onyx, jade, sapphire, turquoise, emerald, and their settings and mountings were made of gold. They were prepared on the day you were created. I assigned you as the anointed covering cherub. You were on the holy mountain of God, and you walked about the fiery stones. You were faultless in your ways from the day you were created until righteousness was found in you. So Satan was a cherub in Eden until he decided to rebel against his creator and get the first human pair to join his rebellion. But even after this, Satan still had access to heaven. Remember Job? He influenced other spirit creatures to rebel against God. These materialized and came to earth to marry women, those fallen angels. Genesis 6:2. When men started to grow in number on the surface on the ground, daughters were born to them. The sons of the true God began to notice the daughters of men were beautiful. So they began to take as wives all those who they chose. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and afterwards. During that time, the sons of the true God continued to have relations with the daughters of men, and sons were born to them. They were mighty ones of old times, men of renown. The flood of Noah's day destroyed the hybrid offspring, but their rebellious fathers disintegrated the bodies they had materialized, but could not return to God's presence. The ringleader, Satan, however, is seen in God's presence 2 times in the book of Job. It's clear that from those accounts that Satan has access to both heaven and earth. Okay, that's where I'm like, I don't think he has access to heaven now. Because take a look right now, what's happening in the world, right? His time is short. He's been thrown down to the earth. He doesn't have access anymore, but I'll still read this. Job 1:6. Now the day came when the sons of the true God entered to take their station before Jehovah. I think it's probably a Jehovah's Witness who wrote this, but I agree with a lot of it. And Satan also entered among them. Then Jehovah said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered Jehovah, "From roving about on the earth and walking about in it." The ousting of Satan from heaven and his being restricted to the earth didn't occur until the book of Revelation started undergoing fulfillment. This fulfillment started in what the Bible calls the last days. So Satan was thrown out of heaven and restricted to the earth in the 20th century. Yeah, I'm not so sure, but I'll read it anyways. I guess I didn't read this whole thing, but it's such a... He was thrown out. Yeah, that's... I'm not gonna... I can't think with a kidney stone on here, but I'll still read it. Revelation 12:7. And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels battled with the dragon, and the dragon and its angels battled, but they could not prevail. Nor was a place found for them any longer in heaven. At what point? Right in the description. Yeah, sorry, in the comments, when you think. The great dragon was hurled, the original serpent, the one called the devil and Satan, who was misleading the entire inhabited earth. He was hurled down to the earth, and his angels were hurled down with him. I heard a voice in heaven say, "Now have come to pass the salvation and the power of the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ. Because the accuser of our brothers has been hurled down, who accuses them night and day before our God." I actually think he was taken out of heaven long before. Maybe, yeah, that's it, eh? After Jesus won, right? After Jesus won, right? I can't think straight, but I'm just trying to get some stuff across. Actually, I heard this from a Jehovah's Witness. They think it happened in around World War I, which, you know, when you say World War, is that possible? Could be. And, you know, our world has gotten a lot worse since that time. Look where we are right now. So look at the history from World War I to now. It's pretty horrific. So I see where they're coming from. Revelation says that when Satan is thrown down, he has but a short time. This is bad news and good news. Bad news is that he's wreaking havoc on the earth, and he as he possibly can before, I don't know what this is, came to an end in good news because he has a short time. All the woes we see happening right now are soon to end, and that's true. And then there will be a new rulership over the earth. Then there will be justice, peace, and love flowing like a river. Okay, so that's it. So I'm just going to finish this video with the obvious, which is Israel. I pray this is the beginning of the end, and that God allows, I'm going to read a thing after this, a good article, to perish from the earth evil. I don't care who that is, who needs to perish. Since I studied war, I find it strange that Israel was caught off guard by it. Okay, so I said this. What else am I saying here? The Iron Dome got jammed, and only one country other than the United States would assist Iran, because let's be honest, we know it was Iran. Okay, so they have admitted that, is behind everything. Only Russia can jam advanced radar systems. Think about it. Iran is giving millions of shells, bullets, drones to Russia for what? To be friends? I don't think so. Nuclear secrets and technology. If Israel gets overrun, they admit they will use nuclear weapons. That's what they said. In 1973, Israel had a plan. I don't know if you guys, if anyone, people aren't saying this. They had a plan that if they were overrun, they were gonna they're going to, or they did, I forget if this actually got to the point, that they purposely misled part of the Egyptian army. Like they routed an Egyptian army, like they purposely, that a lot of, anyways, their purpose was that the Israeli army was going to, part of the Israeli army was going to lead them into the desert, like fool them to going there, and there they were going to light off a firecracker. They were going to let off a nuclear bomb, so everyone would stop attacking Israel. So that's where it's going to come to again. That's what they've said, and I believe it. Listen, Revelations or somewhere else says Israel. 2/3 of Israel will die of their population and leave a remnant. It's funny, isn't it? Because Paul said that when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction. And didn't that happen on a small scale? But the Bible says, doesn't say what scale. Our preconceptions may be wrong about many things. People don't think we're in judgment right now because the death toll isn't in the millions or billions, but they may be wrong. We know it's the end because of what Jesus said, and we see all the alliances, like the Bible stated, gathering like a storm. Read Ezekiel, that's why. Pardon me a sec. I do this every time. Pardon me. I'm in a rush because I still have to go to my parents' house for Thanksgiving. Read Ezekiel 38-39. Look at the countries in those chapters, okay? They name the countries that are going to come together. And don't be dissuaded from learning who those countries are, because they give them, some of them are a different name, because that was written a long time ago. Look at what countries they mean. Or you can look at a map of Ezekiel 38-39 on Google Images to see what countries they are. They'll show you. It's happening right now. On the day of the attack, we had so I was eating, okay, in the early morning hours when this attack happened. And at the same time, there were 3 earthquakes, and they were all above 6.5. I think it was one in the Philippines, Japan, and there were 2 in Afghanistan, and I just learned 2,000 people were killed. Libya, 11,000. Turkey, 80,000. Wake up, man. In Afghanistan, of all places. What's next? Hurricanes in the desert with snow squalls, right? That probably will happen. Stop watching, and they're getting floods in the desert, and this Saudi Arabia is actually turning green, just like the Bible said it would. Stop watching all the disasters and being starstruck. Stay in the Word at least once per day. I wake up and when I wake up, I take my pain meds, and I start eating, and I read. It takes, my meds like an hour to kick in. I have a lot of pain, and I spend that hour just reading. That helps govern the rest of my day. Whatever happens, we have to roll with it. I have a lot to lose. These are my fears. Losing my pain meds with everything that's happening in the world. But you know what? If things suddenly didn't become available, I do think about it. It's my biggest fear. When these kind of fears materialize, and mine is quite bad because I take a lot of different pain meds for different reasons. We must prepare ourselves in case to go through it if necessary. God will not forget us. So Hezbollah threatens immediate war if Israel does a ground war. They're doing a ground war. I heard they've already used over 1,000 tons of bombs. A lot of people are going to die, man. So I'm going to read this. Just give me a little break here. This is a good article, man. the characteristic, of the Antichrist. They say he's going to be this, he's going to be that. But the Bible doesn't say anything about the way he's going to be, except for there is a couple places that say. And we know he's prideful and stuff like that, so just, I don't know how long this is. I forget. Give me a sec. Okay, no, nothing's popping up. That's weird. There's nothing here. I really want to read this. I may come back if I can't get it. I don't know, it just shows. I'll look for it. Here it is. I don't know why it didn't pop up before. What does the Bible teach about the Antichrist? I see a lot of videos, a lot of pre-trib rapture people saying this is what he's going to be. He's going to be the best orator. He's going to make peace. He's going to be this. He's going to be that. We know he's going to be probably the reflection of Jesus Christ, right? But it doesn't say anything about the characteristics of him. So I'm going to read this. And I am bothered by it because there's so many people, like, even, the like top people like Chuck Missler, John MacArthur. I just, like, show it to me. And, they talk in a way like they know what he's like and what he's going to do. I don't believe in a 7-year tribulation. Daniel 9:27 is all about the Antichrist, Messiah. It has nothing to do with the Antichrist. It doesn't say the prince of the power of the air, does it? It says the prince. The covenant is Jesus. Jesus made a covenant. Got to reread that. 3.5 years he will be cut off, but not for himself. Means he did it for us. And it was 3.5 years into his ministry. That's where people get the 7-year tribulation. It's not going to be 7 years, man. It's going to be very quick. That's what I think. Pardon me, I don't like eating on camera. One of the most commonly discussed and speculated topics when it comes to issues related to the end times is the Antichrist. So it's important to look to the Bible to see what it teaches about the topic. This term is actually never used by Jesus or the Apostle Paul. Jesus talked about false messiahs and false prophets, while the Apostle Paul talked about the man of lawlessness. So we know that, right? He's going to be lawless. Surprisingly enough, the term also is not found in the book of Revelation. The only place the word Antichrist is found is the Bible of the letters of John. John 1, 2, 18, 22, John 4, 3, and John 2, 7. Having explored Paul's discussion of the man of lawlessness in Thessalonians 2, 2, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 in the previous post, I want to explore the term in the letters of John and then also the description of it in the book of Revelation that most will associate with a figure labeled the Antichrist, as one can refer to the same person or idea with different terms. I think it's the Antichrist spirit, okay? As it might bring more clarity to this figure and how we should think about him. Do I think there's going to be an Antichrist at the end? Yes, I do. But just listen. So the Antichrist in the letters of John. John seems to presuppose that his readers have been taught the idea that a figure labeled as Antichrist would come, as he writes, "Children, it is the last hour. And as you have heard that Antichrist is coming, So now many antichrists have come. Therefore, we know that it is the last hour. So it began probably after Jesus, when Jesus came, and then when Jesus gave his life up for us. The Antichrist came into the world. John notes there were many antichrists, and they were around in John's time. Thus, John's warning to his readers don't seem to be focused on a figure who will come at the end called the Antichrist. They don't seem to be focused, but rather that there's a spirit that opposes God that is at work in the world right now, and we need to be on guard. I think it's just a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of bad people, the spirit of the Antichrist. That said, he doesn't explicitly say that there is not one to come, but rather that the same spirit is at work now. He also notes that we're living in the last hour right now. And if you look at the timeline, right, we are in the last hour compared to the rest of prehistory. This is the last 2,000 years, so it's the last hour. If you look on a, like if you were to put them in days for every century, but rather that the same spirit is at work now. He also denotes that we're living in the last hour now. We should see the end as imminent, the next thing that will happen in God's timeline. As we read further in John, it would seem that these antichrists have come from inside the church. People who were part of the church, but then seem to have fallen away. They went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would have continued with us. But they went out that it might become plain that they all are not of us. Excuse me, 1 John 2:19. I can't tell you how hard this is, guys. It seems that they have come to deny truths about God and Jesus, as it notes. Who is the liar but who denies that Jesus is the Christ? This is the Antichrist, he who denies the Father and the Son. The other reference in 1 John adds this: by this you should know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is of God, and every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. If you don't believe that, you're not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard was coming and now is in the world already. That's 1 John 4:2 and 3. A similar point is made in 2 John 7. For many deceivers have gone out into the world, those who don't confess the coming of Jesus Christ in the flesh, such as one is a deceiver and the Antichrist. These are the reminders that the Antichrist spirit would seem to emerge from within the Christian community and could subtly be undercutting gospel teaching. The work of the devil is often done in ways that we don't notice. Look where we are right now. Look at the Christian church. They're not even speaking up for anything. This is a long video. Pardon me, I got to take a little break here. I hope they let me record all this or upload all this. If it doesn't, then whatever. The beast and false prophet in Revelation. When most people talk about the Antichrist, they seem to refer to a figure in Revelation. This chapter actually describes two figures. One is a beast arising out of the seas, and another is a beast that arises out of the earth. I know what those mean, and my belief may be different than this, but these two beasts are intertwined, with the second beast making the world worship the first beast. Later on in the book of Revelation, the second beast is called the false prophet, while the first is simply labeled as the beast. This beast is what most label the Antichrist. For me, I believe it's Roman America. Both the false prophet and the beast are connected to the dragon, which is a symbol for Satan. In fact, chapter 13 appears to further unpack what is discussed in Revelation 12 in terms of the work of the dragon and opposing God, as it seems the dragon is calling up these two helpers to do his work. Many have pointed out how these two figures are part of the unholy trinity of the dragon, beast, and false prophet, which some similarities to the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. In both cases, the third person points to the second, who has been healed from what seems to be a mortal wound. That mortal wound, by the way, was when the Pope was arrested in 1798. That's my belief. We have to remember that John has a vision, and the papacy ended for a while their rule. John has a vision about these figures that's clothed in symbolic imagery. The figure may look grotesque with horns and heads as a symbolic of various realities. For example, the 10 horns and 7 heads may point to universal and complete oppression. Rome. Chapter 13:5 tells us that the figure of the beast will be able to exercise authority for 42 months. This time marker seems to be less about pulling out of a calendar and counting the days. Okay, so I believe that's 42 months. The saints, I believe that was 1260 years. I can't get into that right now, but there are similar statements in the Old Testament book of Daniel about a time, times, and half a time. The beast will be opposing God and his people while drawing people from all walks of life, with the false prophet pointing people to the beast, so that people will worship the beast and ultimately the dragon. A further note that can be overlooked is that the second beast, false prophet, is said to look like a lamb but speak like a dragon. That's the United States, showing that this figure could look harmless but offers the words of Satan. This matches what we hear about Satan elsewhere, as false prophets in wolves and sheep's clothing, and Satan masquerades as an angel of light. 2 Corinthians 11:14. Chapter 11, verse 14. Chapter 13 also discusses the mark of the beast. Much has been written about this number in light of the way Satan seems to imitate God in imperfect ways. Even this act of sealing, as we see earlier in Revelation 7, that the Lamb sealed people. I can't help but see this number as a way of showing that it falls short but imitates the perfection of God. 7 was considered the perfect number, with 3 of them having significance. That's the use of 6. Yeah. There may also be a reference to this number to the Roman Emperor Nero as turning the letters of his name into numbers to 666. I believe actually the papacy seat is 666. Could Nero come back? When it comes to this mark, we should see the connection between worshiping the beast and receiving the mark. This doesn't seem to come accidentally, but rather through pledging allegiance to the beast. It's going to be worship. That's going to be the mark of the beast. If you worship these people, whoever it's going to be, that's the mark of the beast. I don't think it's going to be an actual mark, because a mark can be given against your will. This connection or allusion to Nero may be a way of indicating that the vision John had points to this being a force that's at work in the present, not just in the future. See what I mean? It's a spirit. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's a spirit, and I believe there's going to be a man come, but I don't think it's going to be like people think it is. That the spirit is out right now. You can see how evil it is right now. The language used in the book of Revelation has connections to the Roman Empire, which is the latest in the line of empires: Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, Greece, that have been opposing the people of God. It did so through political as well as religious pressure, asking for people to worship the Roman emperor. The connections to Rome don't mean that it was Rome itself. It was a later reference to Babylon, which had been destroyed. In addition, the imagery of the first beast, the Antichrist, recalls the various animals symbolized empires in the book of Daniel. This beast seems to be embodiment of them all, and thus a culmination of them all. It was seen in Rome at the time, and it would seem right before Christ's return. There will be similar pressures led by various figures that are reminiscent of what we saw in Rome, though likely manifesting in different ways. The language was to call the people reading Revelation to stay faithful as they face these powers. This message continues throughout time as different empires rose up to oppose God. So the conclusions on the Antichrist, from these discussions, it seems that there is an end-time figure who was preceded by various other figures who opposed the work of Jesus. There's been a lot of them. The spirit of Antichrist are in these people. there's a spirit of the Antichrist at work that will culminate in a person at the end. So yes, I believe he's coming, but not like, what I'm getting at is the Bible doesn't say anything specifically about, his personality, the way he's going to be, what he's going to do at this. It's like as if they know. The warnings are less about identifying this figure and more about being on guard against the forces currently opposing God. So stay on guard. It's telling us to stay on guard. Like, stop looking for the Antichrist. It's going to come when he comes. You're not going to see it. You're going to see it when it comes. The warnings are less about identifying this figure and more about being on guard against the forces currently opposing God, recognizing that these could come from within the church and not just from authorities outside, because Satan continually opposes the work of God and thus takes on different forms and manifestations throughout the ages. It seems we may only recognize the men of lawlessness from 2 Thessalonians after he has come and Jesus has returned. That being said, we can recognize the workings of Satan opposing God in various realms, all of them, politics, economics, and religious, and need to stay true to the one true God, whom we know will defeat these forces of evil. The main point of these writings is to remember that God wins in the end, allowing us to be faithful in the midst of our current sufferings. Go ahead, look up the characteristics of Satan. Go do a Google search or whatever search engine and look up and say, and type in, what are the characteristics of Satan that it says in the Bible? You're not going to come up with many at all. And so when you hear people saying, don't be fooled by that, I don't think it's going to come out the way you think it is. You got to read, it bothers me because there are people who have studied the Bible every day for hours and hours and hours, and they're coming out and saying he's going to be a great orator. He's going to make a peace accord. It's like picking out, they pick out like at least 10 characteristics, and then when those people go out and teach people like you and me, we parrot that, right? So just stay ready. Anyways, happy Thanksgiving. I know it's not a biblical holiday. That's a long video. Just always be ready. Stay in the Word. God bless.